Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down something that a lot of people think is out of reach, something just for the super wealthy, and that's owning a rental property. But here's the thing, it's one of the most powerful and, believe it or not, accessible ways to build real, long-term wealth. We're going to walk through the whole journey, right from the very beginning, getting your finances ready, all the way to finding a deal and managing it like a pro.
So let's just start with this one question, just to get you thinking. Could a stranger pay your mortgage? I know, it sounds a little weird, right? Maybe a little too good to be true, but honestly, this is the entire idea behind investing in rental properties. You want a real, tangible asset, a house, and someone else, your tenant, helps you pay for it. Every single month, that rent check comes in, and it's not just covering the bills, it's actively chipping away at your loan, building your net worth for you. It's a really unique kind of wealth-building engine. And today, we're going to pop the hood and see exactly how it works.
Okay, but hold on. Before you jump onto Zillow and start daydreaming about properties, we have to talk about the foundation. This is the prep work. It's not the glamorous part, I get it, but it's what truly determines whether you succeed or fail. In fact, pretty much all of the most expensive mistakes people make happen right here, before they even start looking at houses. Getting this part right is absolutely the key to everything else.
You know, the single biggest predictor of success really just comes down to your mindset. Are you going to be an investor or are you going to be a hobbyist? See, a hobbyist gets emotional. They fall in love with a kitchen backsplash or a big backyard, and they just cross their fingers and hope it works out. They see a home. An investor, on the other hand, sees a small business. They treat this like a business from day one. They are driven by numbers, by systems, by a clear strategy, not feelings. Every single potential property gets run through a spreadsheet, not a mood board. And that one distinction, well, it changes everything.
Here's another thing. You absolutely cannot and should not try to do this all by yourself. You've got to assemble a team of pros. And not just any pros. You need specialists. First up, a real estate agent who gets investors. They're not just there to show you pretty houses. They're hunting for deals. They understand the rental market, and they can spot red flags a mile away. Next, a mortgage lender who specializes in investment property loans, because the rules are totally different. Then you need a CPA who knows real estate inside and out. This person is going to be your guide to all the amazing tax benefits like depreciation that can save you a ton of money. And finally, a real estate attorney. They're going to look over every single contract and make sure you're protected. This team right here is going to be your single greatest asset.
All right, so your foundation is solid, you've got your team ready to go. Now it's time for the really exciting part, the hunt. But this is where that investor mindset we talked about has to kick in hard. Just remember, the goal isn't to find a house that you'd want to live in. The goal is to find a deal that makes financial sense. It's an asset, plain and simple, designed to generate income and build your wealth.
To keep from getting overwhelmed and analyzing hundreds of bad deals, you need some quick filters. First is the 1% rule. It's a simple back-of-the-napkin test. Does the monthly rent equal at least 1% of the purchase price? So for a $200,000 house, you'd want to see at least $2,000 a month in rent. If it's not even close, you just move on. Next is the cap rate. This is a little more detailed, but it helps you compare the profitability of different properties, kind of like an apples-to-apples comparison. And finally, the most important one for you, the investor, is the cash-on-cash return. This number tells you exactly what kind of annual return you're making on the actual cash you pulled out of your pocket. This is your personal ROI, and it's the metric that really matters the most.
Theory is great and all, but let's make this really sink in. It's one thing to see numbers on a slide, but it's another thing to see how they work in the real world. So we're going to walk through a case study for a first-time investor we'll call Alex. We're going to see exactly how the math works on a pretty typical first investment property from the very beginning to the very end.
So after a few months of looking, Alex finds a solid deal. It's a 3-bedroom house in what's known as a Class B neighborhood. These areas are kind of the sweet spot for investors. They're stable, working-class suburbs, a good mix of homeowners and renters, decent schools, low crime. You get a great balance of affordable prices and really high-quality tenants. The final purchase price they agree on is $280,000.
So the million-dollar question, or in this case, the $60,000 question, is how much cash does Alex actually need to bring to the table? This isn't like buying your own home. For an investment property, lenders are almost always going to require a 20% down payment. On $280,000, that's $56,000. Then you've got your closing costs, things like appraisal fees, title insurance, attorney fees. We'll estimate that at about $4,000. So all in, Alex needs to have $60,000 in cash ready to go to close the deal. Okay, now let's look at the true monthly expenses. And this right here is a step where so many new investors get into big trouble because they only calculate the mortgage. A smart investor accounts for everything.
Of course, you've got your mortgage payment, your property taxes, and your insurance. But, and this is so important, you also have to budget for the future. You have to set aside money every single month for vacancies because eventually the property will be empty for a bit. And you have to save for big repairs because one day that roof for that water heater is going to need replacing. Budgeting like this prevents nasty surprises and brings the total monthly cost to a realistic $2,262.
Alex does his homework and finds that the fair market rent for this house is $2,400 a month. So, you take that rent, you subtract the total monthly expenses of $2,262, and you're left with a positive cash flow of $138. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You're looking at that and going, $138? That's it? I went through all that for just over $100 a month? And you know what? That's a totally fair question. But that's where most people stop, and they miss the bigger picture. They miss the real power of this investment.
Because that monthly profit, it's just one of 4 different ways you make money in real estate. This is how real wealth is built. You've got the cash flow, yes, but you also have loan paydown. Every single month, your tenant is paying off your mortgage for you. They're building your equity without you even thinking about it. Then you get huge tax benefits, mostly from something called depreciation. Basically, the IRS lets you write off a piece of the property's value each year, which lowers your taxable income and saves you real money. And finally, over the long haul, the property itself grows in value through appreciation. See? 4 profit centers all working for you at the same time.
Getting the keys to the house is awesome, but it's just the beginning. Now the real work starts. Now you have to run your new small business. Effective management is what separates a profitable, pretty passive investment from a stressful, soul-crushing nightmare. This is how you protect your asset for years to come.
Now, I really want you to listen to this because it is the single most important job you have as a landlord. Tenant screening. I cannot say this enough. One bad tenant can wipe out years of profit. They can cost you thousands in lost rent, tens of thousands in legal fees to evict them, and even more in property damage. A great tenant, though, a great tenant pays on time, they take care of your property, and they make this whole thing feel smooth and easy. Your success is almost entirely decided before that tenant even moves in.
So what does great screening actually look like? It means you have clear, written rules that you apply to every single person who applies. No exceptions. It's not personal, it's just business. First, you verify their gross income is at least 3 times the monthly rent. This proves they can actually afford it. Second, you run a credit check and look for red flags, like a history of not paying bills. You're also looking for any past evictions on their record. That's a huge deal breaker. And finally, and this is so critical, you have to actually call their last 2 landlords and ask what they were like as a tenant. You ask, did they pay on time? Did they take care of the place? This step is non-negotiable.
It all just comes down to this. You can find the most perfect property with perfect numbers in a perfect neighborhood, but if you put the wrong person in that house, none of it matters. Your entire investment, your cash flow, your equity, your peace of mind, it all hangs on your ability to find and place a great tenant using a tough, consistent screening process.
So let's circle all the way back to Alex's deal. We've seen the purchase, we've broken down the numbers, we've covered how to manage it. Now let's hit the fast forward button and go 1 year into the future. Let's look at the total financial picture and see the true power of this one investment when all those profit centers are working together.
Okay, so in that first year, Alex collected $1,656 in cash flow. That's the money that actually hit the bank account. But that's just the start. The tenant's rent payments also paid down the mortgage principal by about $3,200. That's equity that Alex now owns. And thanks to those tax deductions like depreciation, Alex saved an estimated $1,560 on his income taxes. So you see, that small monthly cash flow was just one part of a much bigger, much more powerful return.
So when you add it all up, the cash flow, the loan paydown, and the tax savings, the total return in just the first year is over $6,400. Now, when you measure that against the $60,000 in cash that Alex actually invested, what do you get? You get a cash-on-cash return of 10.7%. To put that into perspective for you, that is well above the historical average of the stock market. That is a seriously powerful return in just 1 year, and that doesn't even factor in a single dollar of potential appreciation if the home's value went up.
And there you have it. That's the blueprint. From getting the investor mindset and building your A-team to running the numbers and managing the property the right way, you now have the foundational steps. It's a proven, repeatable path that can turn this big, complex idea of real estate investing into a very achievable goal for building real, lasting wealth. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with it?
you.